Senate will come to order. Senator Westland.
Thank you, Madam President. I impose a call of the Senate.
The Senate is under call. Senator Murphy.
Madam President, I move that further proceedings under the roll call be dispensed with and that the Sergeant at Arms be instructed to bring in the absent members.
On that motion, please say aye. Opposed, say no. The motion prevails. Members will please stand for the prayer. Following the prayer, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Today's chaplain is the Reverend Justin Grimm from the St. Paul Area Synod of the ELCA.
Good morning. Thank you all for your service to this great state. Let us pray. God of all creation, we gather in this chamber aware that we come from many traditions, Christian and Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, indigenous, and more. We honor the Dakota and Ojibwe peoples whose stewardship of this land stretches far beyond our own histories. We give thanks for the many cultures and languages and faiths that now shape Minnesota's identity. From Somali and Hmong communities to Scandinavian, East African, Latin American, and Eastern European neighbors, and so many others who call this state home. We pause to recognize the beauty and responsibility of this place, the rivers that sustain us, the forests that shelter us, the prairies that remind us of openness, and the long winters that teach us endurance. May the rhythms of creation guide our work towards balance and care. Bless the members of this body with the courage to listen deeply and the humility to learn from those whose experiences differ from their own. In a state where rural and urban, long established and newly arrived communities all contribute to our shared life, help these leaders see diversity not as a challenge to overcome, but as a strength to build upon. Where disagreements arise, cultivate respect. Where perspectives diverge, nurture understandings. Where decisions weigh heavily, offer clarity and compassion. May the work done here honor every Minnesotan. those on the Iron Range and in the Red River Valley, in tribal nations, suburbs, small towns, and our own Twin Cities. May it protect the gifts of creation entrusted to us and ensure that justice, opportunity, and dignity reach every household. Guide this body to act with integrity, imagination, and a commitment to the common good, so that together we may shape a Minnesota where all can thrive. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance. Secretary will take the roll.
Abler, Barr, Bolden, Carlson, Champion, Clark, Coleman, Swadzinski, Dames, Dibble, Dornick, Draheim, Drazkowski, Duckworth, Farnsworth, Fateh, Frentz, Green, Grunhagen, Gustafson, Hochschild, Herr, Heinzman, Hemmingson Jaeger, Hoffman, Holmstrom, Housley, Howe, Jasinski, Johnson, Johnson Stewart, Klein, Koran, Kreun, Kunish, Kupek, Lang, Latz, Liskey, Limmer, Lucero, Mann, Marty, Matthews, Make Wade, McEwen, Miller, Mohammed, Murphy, Nelson, Verbaten, Pappas, Pa, Port, Pratt, Putnam, Rarick, Rasmussen, Rest, Seeberger, Utke, Weber, Wiesenberg, Westland, Westrom, Wickland, Zhang.
A quorum is present. The following members intend to vote from a remote location under Rule 40.7. Senator Carlson's, Fateh, Pappas, Lucero, and Port. The third order of business is messages from the House. The Secretary will read the message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce the passage by the House of the following Senate file, as amended by the House, in which amendments the concurrence of the Senate is respectfully requested. Senate File Number 2511, a bill for an act relating to liquor, authorizing various municipalities to issue liquor licenses. Senate File Number 2511 is herewith returned to the Senate. Signed, Patrick Duffy Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
Senator Klein.
Thank you, Madam President. And I move that the Senate do concur in the amendments by the House to Senate File Number 2511, and the bill be placed on its repassage as amended. And Madam President, I can speak to the motion.
Senator Klein.
Members, this is the Omnibus minibus liquor bill. You have already voted on it last session. It had strong bipartisan support. It contains local projects from both parties and is non-controversial. Since the last time you voted on it, there are 4 new items, and I'll just briefly speak of those. Representative Perryman in the House offered a wholesaler cooler language. I think we've all seen, if you go to a grocery store and you may see a cooler that says Red Bull, and then there's Red Bull products displayed inside of there. This would allow liquor stores to merchandise in that same manner. The Granny Happy Hour is new. Senator Hoffman's bill that allows care facilities and assisted living facilities to offer a small cocktail for recreational purposes. There is a Senator Utke provision that allows counties to issue liquor licenses to seasonal resorts. And there is a Senator Heinzman provision that allows Brainerd, the city of Brainerd, to issue a liquor license to the Northern Pacific Center. I'm grateful for my co-authors, Senator Latz and Senator Dames, and I urge a yes vote on the motion. I'm open to questions if there are any.
Is there any discussion? Senator Wiesenberg.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the author stand for a question?
Senator Klein, do you yield? He does. Senator Wiesenberg.
Thank you, Madam President. And I'm curious to what may have been taken out of the bill. I know there was some language that would allow a 17-year-old to bring liquor from the bar to serve it, and I'm wondering if that got taken out because that was something in the bill that looked good, and our small businesses need that because they're only hiring high school students, so it's hard for them to find employees. Do you know if that is still in the bill? Thank you.
Senator Klein.
Madam President, Senator Wiesenberg, that was never part of the Senate language. It was a provision that was fervently advocated for by the House, and it did not have the support of the caucuses over there, nor did it have the support of the caucuses over here, and it has been dropped.
Senator Wiesenberg.
Thank you, Madam President. Okay, thank you. I guess there's a few Senate File 2511s that I'm reading, and I know it was in one of them. Anyway, I like that language, and I guess maybe we can try to get that back in there. Thank you.
Further discussion? Senator Latz.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Senator Klein, for bringing this bill forward this year. The provisions that are in here have been waiting around a bit for some legislative attention. I'm awfully glad that we're going to get it across the finish line. There is a specific provision in there for the City of St. Louis Park to authorize a special kind of a food hall license, which is going to be very beneficial for maintaining the strength of our West End commercial, retail, and restaurant area right at Highway 100 and 394. And Senator Dibble has similar food hall license provisions in there for 2 locations in Minneapolis. We're very excited about that, and we're glad to get that across the finish line. Thank you.
Senator Dames.
Well, thank you, Madam President and members. Every year we usually do what we call a one-off liquor bill, and what that amounts to is there's situations to where cities cannot issue themselves a liquor license, so that this comes up and they do it in a one-off bill. We've been doing this for several years. This is another pretty good bill. There are some things that Senator Klein mentioned, and there are new this year. A couple of them, things that were brought last year, that were new last year, are still in this bill. So I would urge a green vote. It is a good bill, and thank you, members.
On the Klein motion, all those, sorry, Senator Nelson.
Thank you, President Rest. I just wanted to stand and also thank Senator Klein, Senator Dames, those who worked on the liquor bill. I did want to call out the Rochester provision for the historic Chateau Theater, which is an event space in a historic theater. So we are glad to see that, and maybe disappointed we didn't do more on the social districts, but we do have next year for that. But I too am pleased to support this. Thank you.
Senator Clark.
Thank you, Madam President, and I'm pleased to support this bill as well. Within this bill is a provision that allows the University of Minnesota full campus system to offer more liquor licenses. They are currently at capacity, and, well, we need to give them a bit more flexibility, and that's what this bill does. I'm also pleased to hear of all the many good options that folks are providing. Senator Dames, Senator Nelson, sounds like there's good places for me to visit across the state, and so thank you for highlighting those.
Further discussion. On the Klein motion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. The motion prevails, and and there you go. The Secretary will give Senate File 2511 its third reading.
Senate File 2511, a bill for an act relating to liquor, authorizing various municipalities to issue liquor licenses, etc.
Further discussion on the Senate file as amended by the House. Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll on final passage as amended. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator Lucero votes no.
Senator Lucero votes no. Senator Bolden, are you ready? Senator, no. All right, we'll wait. Senator Bolden.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator Fate votes aye.
Senator Fate votes aye.
Senator Pappas votes aye.
Senator Pappas votes aye.
And Senator Port votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye. All members having voted who desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 56 ayes and 10 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The Secretary will read the next message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce the passage by the House of the following House files herewith transmitted. House file numbers 3437, 3467, 3479, 3544, 3699, 4118, and 4241. Signed, Patrick Duffy Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
No action is required. Fourth order of business, first reading of House files. The House files have been given their first reading and referred as indicated. The fifth order of business, Senator Murphy.
Thank you, President Rest. I move the committee reports printed in the agenda be adopted with the exception of the reports pertaining to Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 6.
On the adoption of the committee reports, all in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The motion prevails. The seventh order of business, the second reading of House files. The Secretary will read the House file number.
House file number 3718.
The House file has been given its second reading. The eighth order of business, bills listed on today's introduction calendar are given their first reading and referred as indicated. The ninth order of business, there is a motion to read at the desk. Secretary will read the motion.
Senator Klein moves that the name of Senator Dames be added as a co-author to Senate file number 2511.
We will adopt the author's motions as one motion. All in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Senator Abler.
Thank you, Madam President, and welcome back. The Capitol is abuzz with this particular project. I do move that Senate File 3240 be withdrawn from the Committee on Health and Human Services and be referred to the Committee on Human Services. It's my bill. It has to do with cameras in hospitals, and we're going to just get a start on that topic, and so I appreciate your support. Thank you.
On the motion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. The motion prevails. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Murphy.
Thank you, President Rest. I move to take up the confirmation calendar.
To that motion, all in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Senator Frantz.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, members. Madam President, I move that the report from the Committee on Energy, Utilities, Environment, and Climate that was reported on March 4th, 2026, pertaining to appointments, be taken from the table.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed say no. The motion prevails. Senator Frantz.
Thank you, Madam President and members. I move that the foregoing report now be adopted.
To that motion, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed say no. The motion prevails. Senator Frantz.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, members. I move that in accordance with the report from the Committee on Energy, Utilities, Environment, and Climate, reported March 4th, 2026, that the Senate, having given its advice, do now consent and confirm the appointment of Joseph Sullivan. And Madam President, I would like to speak briefly to that motion.
Senator Prince, on the
Thank you.
motion.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, members. I bring before you, members of the Minnesota Senate, the motion to appoint and confirm Commissioner of the Public Utilities Commission, Joseph Sullivan. The first thing you should know, members, is that the Energy Committee recommends that you confirm Commissioner Sullivan unanimously. That is, all Democrats and all Republicans on the committee supported this recommendation to the full body. On your desk, members, you will find a series of letters, too numerous for me to count, in support of this confirmation. Madam President, those letters of support include LIUNA Laborers, Legal Aid, Fresh Energy, the Minnesota Rural Electric Association, the Citizens Utility Board, Clean Energy Economy, and several more. Things I hope you will consider in choosing how to vote on this motion is that Commissioner Sullivan has been a trusted and successful member of the Public Utilities Commission since 2020. We are seeking confirmation of him for an additional 6-year term. Over the last 20 years, Commissioner Sullivan has been a leader in energy, utility, regulation, advocacy, and support. He has routinely provided guidance and votes on the Public Utilities Commission that both sides of the aisle have supported. For those reasons and many more, Madam President, I would ask the full body to confirm Joseph Sullivan to the Public Utilities Commission. Thank you, Madam President.
Is there any further discussion on the motion by Senator Frantz? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. The motion prevailed, so the appointment is confirmed. Senator Murphy.
Thank you, President Rest. Pursuant to Rule 26, I designate the following bills be made special orders for immediate consideration.
Members, the list is on your desk. The first bill on special orders is House File 3741, Senator Seeberger.
Thank you, Madam President. It is my pleasure to present to the body House File 3441, which deals with education assistance for veterans and their children and spouses, and modifying certain provisions and appropriating certain funds. House File 3741 modernizes Minnesota statute to provide streamlined education assistance to the children and spouses of prisoners of war and deceased veterans. These updates take a rarely used and inadequate benefit and moves the coverage under the Minnesota GI Bill. Doing so allows a more substantial benefit of $750 to be provided for children and spouses. Minnesota veterans and their families sacrifice so much to keep our state and country safe. Honoring those who have fallen by providing their families with additional educational assistance is the least that we can do. I urge members to vote yes on this bill. Thank you, Madam President.
Further discussion on House File 3741. Seeing none, the Secretary will give House File 3741 its third reading.
House File Number 3741, a bill for an act relating to veterans, modifying educational assistance for veterans' children and spouses.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll on final passage. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator Lucero votes aye.
Senator Lucero votes aye. Senator Bolden.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator Fate votes aye.
Senator Fate votes aye.
Senator Pappas votes aye.
Senator Pappas votes aye.
And Senator Port votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye. All members having voted who desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on special orders is number 21 on general orders, Senate File 3622. Senator Kreun.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, Senate File 3622 is a common sense and technical update to the Minnesota Common Interest Ownership Act. If you are one of the approximately 27% of Minnesotans who live in a condo, a townhouse, or a neighborhood with an HOA, you live in a common interest community. This bill is sponsored by the Minnesota State Bar Association Real Property Section, which includes a lot of smart attorneys who represent all the stakeholders in CICs, including unit owners, developers, and associations. The MKIWA, as I refer to it, Committee of the Real Property Section, volunteered many pro bono hours to create consensus language on these amendments. Laws governing these communities are often dense, and legal practitioners during the course of their practice often come across technical issues and ways to make CICs function more efficiently. This bill doesn't reinvent the wheel. It fixes technical errors, aligns our statutes with court rules, and clears up gray areas that currently cause headaches for homeowners and boards. And Madam President, before I get into the substance of the bill, I have an administrative matter, and I'd like to offer the A2 amendment.
The Secretary will report the amendment. Senator Kreun, or Mr. Secretary.
Senator Kreun moves to amend Senate File Number 3622 as follows. Page 97 after line 8, insert. This is the A2 amendment.
Senator Kreun.
Thank you, Madam President. The A2 amendment relates to 308C, our Cooperative Housing Act. It relates to a bill that we passed in 2024 that has already had its effective date delayed by 1 year. This amendment would delay that effective date for another year. And the reason is there's some technical issues and consumer protection issues that needed to be added to that bill. There's currently a rewrite going on of 308C, but it may not quite be ready to pass this session, so we wanted to make sure the effective date was delayed for another year to give the Bar Association and the bill authors, Senator Dibble and myself, I think I'm a co-author on that bill, time to make sure 308C is in proper condition before it goes into effect.
Thank you, Senator Kreun. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Senator Kreun, for the amendments. Members, as Senator Kreun described, this simply delays the effective date of the newly written Chapter 308C until next year versus going into effect this year, to give us the opportunity to make some of the changes that have been discussed in this past interim. Unfortunately, those changes showed up a little too late to put it through the legislative hearing process yet this year, so we'll take another stab at it next year. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, Senator Dibble, would he yield for a question?
Senator Dibble, will you yield? He does. Senator Westrom.
Madam President, Senator Dibble, the intent of the cooperative rewrite a couple of years ago, I think, was a good one and a valiant effort to help that option of home ownership and just a structure be a good option for people for housing. Can you confirm to us that there's good faith progress being made on that? Is this just a delay tactic? Is there some opposition, or what's kind of the status? And I just ask, I think you and I are both probably on the same page of trying to get that done, but I just want to make sure that the parties are all moving forward in good faith and going to get this done, and this is not just an unnecessary delay tactic.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you. Appreciate the question, Senator Westrom. Madam President, in response to Senator Westrom's question, I can answer affirmatively that the conversations and the negotiation and the changes, and actually the bill has been introduced, so I'm not sure what the Senate file number is, but it was introduced within the last week or two under my name, and so members can take a look at those revisions. The revisions are actually a little more extensive than described because a number of technical cleanup opportunities were taken on the substance of Chapter 308C, but the basis of the main conversation, which was to provide for various consumer disclosure and protection elements, which you find in Chapter 515. Those were actually brought over to the new Chapter 308C. All very productive, very positive. Bill was, it was a fairly extensive rewrite, and everyone is probably familiar with the bottleneck that occurred in the revisor's office this year, so it just showed up a little bit too late to get it through the process before deadlines. And it's fairly substantive, and actually Senator Latz has agreed to have an informational hearing post-deadline, and so a lot of these issues will be brought to light in case there needs to be even a little bit more conversation during this interim as we get ready for ultimately moving and passing the bill in the coming session, assuming that I'll be back and others will be back, knocking on wood here. I don't want to take anything for granted. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Senator Westrom.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Senator Dibble. I just would urge the parties to keep working diligently. Let's work through the technical issues or the more substantive issues, because I think the spirit of the rewrite of the cooperative law in 308 and the opportunity that can be to help bring some more affordable, good housing options to bear and expand across the state and be used more often, especially in mobile home park conversions. That is one model that I think has got a lot of promise. And we talked a lot about the housing needs in Minnesota and the opportunity for people to get into a starter home. This is that opportunity in many cases, or in some cases, that needs to be expanded. And so that's why I speak in favor of the extension. Appreciate Senator Dibble's comments, but we want to make sure the 308 co-op rewrite comes out successful and is functional and usable for a much greater expansive housing purchase and home ownership options that we can provide in this state. And it doesn't have to just be the models we've talked about. There can be other models, I think, that could come about if we get this cleaned up and more usable for another tool in the toolbox for home ownership in Minnesota.
Further discussion on the amendment, Senator Kreun.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Senator Westrom and Senator Dibble, for that conversation. I agree that 308C has many good opportunities, especially for manufactured home parks, to really make 308C a usable product. Unfortunately, some of the consumer protections from 515B, which this bill is ultimately about, were not carried forward into 308C. So there's a lot of good things that are going on with the rewrite of 308C, but we need to bring those 515B protections into 308C. And to Senator Westrom's point about what's being done, I'm also starting to be active in this bill and work with the Bar Association to make sure that those 515B elements get carried over to 308C, and we have the best possible 308C bill going forward. So with that, Madam President, I again urge members to vote yes on this A2.
Further discussion of the A2 amendment. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Further discussion of Senate File 3622, Senator Kreun.
Thank you, Madam President. Now, with that amendment adopted, the heart of Senate File 3622, there are 97 pages to this bill, Madam President, but I can assure you that most of them are technical and conforming changes, and I will not go over all 97 pages. I'm pretty sure the body would not appreciate that. But of the substantive parts that this bill changes, I'll just focus on 5 really briefly. And they include protections for small CICs. Currently, state law requires nonprofit boards to have at least 3 members. But what if a condo building only has 2 units? This bill makes it so that those 2 units, there only has to be 2 members on that. So that's one change. A second one, it provides fairness and insurance right now if a restaurant or other commercial enterprise in a mixed-use building that has, say, a private patio or other common area, the entire residential HOA might be on the hook for the liability insurance for that patio. This bill allows the association to shift that insurance responsibility to the commercial owner where it belongs. That protects the residents from seeing their dues spike for unnecessary insurance fees that should be borne by the commercial enterprise. The third thing it does, it provides transparency for buyers. We already require HOAs to show first-time buyers their maintenance plans and budgets. This bill ensures that every buyer going forward, including buying on a resale, is entitled to that same notice. The fourth thing that it does is it provides clarity for practitioner. It aligns the statutes with existing rules of district court that state that drafters of condominium documents may not use both torrens and abstract on the same property. They have to choose one or the other. This just codifies that existing court rule. And finally, Madam President, it provides clarity for lien priorities. The existing law already subordinates homeowners' assessment liens to a first mortgage, but for whatever reason, the bill didn't define what a first mortgage is, so we simply included the definition of a first mortgage. Those are examples of what's in these 97 pages. Madam President, the goal of these updates is to ensure that Minnesota's property laws provide a stable and predictable framework for the 1 in 4 Minnesotans who live in common interest communities. Clear, workable laws reduce the risk of costly litigation, protect the financial health of homeowners associations, and provide the certainty necessary for a robust real estate market. By cleaning up technical conflicts and modernizing this act, we are ensuring that these communities remain sustainable, manageable, and transparent for residents and small business owners alike. With that, Madam President, I encourage all members to vote yes.
Is there a further discussion on Senate File 3622? Seeing none.
Madam President, I request a roll call. Oh.
We're taking care of that. So, the Secretary will give Senate File 3622 its third reading.
Senate File Number 3622, a bill for an act relating to real property, making clarifying, technical, and conforming changes to the Minnesota Common Interest Ownership Act.
Third reading. Is there further discussion on 3622, Senate file? Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll on final passage. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator Lucero votes aye.
Senator Lucero votes aye. Senator Bolden.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Senator Carlson votes aye.
Senator Fateh votes aye.
Senator Fateh votes aye.
And Senator Port votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye. All members having voted, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 67 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. We move now to the 13th order of business. Without objection, the following senators will be excused from today's session. Senator Carlson from 11 to 11:30 a.m. Senator Murphy.
Thank you, President Rest. I move that the Senate do now adjourn until Wednesday, April 15th at 11 a.m.
On the motion, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, say no. The Senate is now adjourned.